Most guys worry about coming home to find their house robbed. I came home early and discovered something far worse. My own son systematically poisoning his mother for money. My name is Roger Bradley, I'm 57 years old. And this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the biggest threat to your family comes from within. Let me tell you something about running a construction business for 30 years. You develop a sixth sense about when something's not right. A foundation that looks solid but feels off. A contractor whose story doesn't add up. That Tuesday afternoon in March, I felt that same wrongness the moment I pulled into my driveway. I wasn't supposed to be home. The meeting with the real estate buyers had wrapped up 3 hours early. After 30 years of building Bradley Construction from nothing, I was finally ready to sell and retire. The paperwork was signed, the deal was done. $1.8 million would hit my account by Friday. Diane and I could finally take that cross-country RV trip we'd been planning. I was feeling good about surprising my wife early. Maybe we'd drive out to that seafood place she loves, celebrate properly. I should have called ahead. The first thing I noticed was Carl's beat-up Honda in the driveway. Now, Carl is my 28-year-old son, and seeing his car at my house on a Tuesday afternoon wasn't just unusual. It was weird. Carl doesn't do casual visits. Carl barely returns phone calls. These days, the only time I see him is when he needs something, usually money. I sat in my truck for a moment, staring at that rusty Honda with the dented bumper and the Support Our Troops sticker I'd given him years ago when he briefly pretended to care about military veterans. I said out loud, "Roger, why is your son here when he should be at work?" I grabbed my briefcase and walked to the front door. The second thing that hit me was the silence. Not peaceful quiet. The heavy, wrong kind of silence that has weight to it. Like when you walk into a job site and know someone just got hurt, but nobody's talking about it yet. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Carl and his girlfriend Brenda were sitting on my living room couch. And here's the part that still makes my skin crawl. They weren't watching TV. They weren't on their phones. They were just sitting there like two people in a hospital waiting room who already knew the bad news was coming. Carl looked up first, and I want you to pay attention to this detail because it changed everything for me. He wasn't surprised to see me. Think about that. Your father, who's supposed to be in a business meeting until 6 p.m., walks through the front door 3 hours early, and you don't even blink. No shock, no, "Dad, what are you doing here?" Just a slow nod like he'd been expecting me. Brenda smiled, and that smile had no business being on anyone's face that afternoon. It was the kind of smile you practice in a mirror before delivering bad news. I said, "Carl, what's going on? Where's your mother?" He cleared his throat and said, "Dad, hey, we were just about to call you. Mom had an episode this morning. She's at Mercy General, but she's stable. I didn't hear anything after Mercy General. I was back in my truck in 10 seconds flat. Something about shock does that. Makes your brain latch onto useless details while the important ones try to kill you. I counted every red light on the way to the hospital. There were 7. I remember thinking how the radio was playing that old Garth Brooks song Diane loves, and how wrong that felt. Dr. Patricia Wells met me at the nurse's station. She was a composed woman, mid-50s, the kind of doctor who delivers hard news with steady eyes and a voice that doesn't wobble. I needed steady right then. She said, "Mr. Bradley, I'm glad you're here. Your wife was brought in this morning by your son. She presented with severe disorientation, organ stress, and elevated toxicity markers in her blood work." "Toxicity markers?" I said. "What does that mean exactly?" "Yes, we're running a full panel, but I need to be straightforward with you. The pattern we're seeing suggests something that's been building over time. This isn't a sudden illness. That word building hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I gripped the edge of the nurse's station so hard my knuckles went white. "Dr. Wells, are you telling me someone is doing this to my wife?" She held my gaze and said something I'll never forget. "I'm telling you we need answers, and I think you do too." I went in to see Diane. Listen, I've seen my wife in every state imaginable, mad enough to throw a wrench at a lazy subcontractor, exhausted after 12-hour shifts at the school where she works as an administrator, happy enough to dance in our kitchen to old country songs while making Sunday breakfast. I wasn't prepared for what I saw in that hospital bed. She looked hollowed out, like someone had slowly, methodically drained everything that made her Diane. Her skin had a grayish tint I'd never seen before. The machines beeped their electronic rhythm, the IV dripped its clear medicine, and my wife, the woman who once chased a door-to-door salesman off our porch with a garden hose for being too pushy, lay there looking impossibly small and fragile. I sat beside her, took her hand, and made her a promise. I don't make promises lightly. Ask anyone who knows me. I told her, I'm here, and I'm not leaving until I know exactly what happened to you. When I walked back to the waiting area, Carl and Brenda had arrived. Of course they had. Carl stood up and said, "Dad, we should talk. There's a lot you don't understand about Mom's condition." I held up one hand. Something in my face must have told him exactly where we stood, because he stopped mid-sentence. "Not yet," I said. Then I walked to the corner of that waiting room, pulled out my phone, and started doing something they never saw coming. I started locking every account Carl had access to. Every single one. See, when Carl was 25 and got married the first time, yeah, that lasted all of 8 months, I'd given him emergency access to our household account, just in case something happened to me and Diane needed help. That account had $15,000 in it for real emergencies. When the notifications started hitting his phone, and I knew they would, I watched his face from across that waiting room. That casual confidence evaporated like morning mist. Brenda looked at her phone, then at Carl, then back at her phone. Her smile disappeared completely. Carl's face went through about 5 different expressions in 10 seconds. Confusion, realization, panic, anger, then back to that fake calm he'd been wearing since I walked into my house. Now we were having a real conversation. I called Glenn Peterson on the way home that night. Glenn's been my best friend since 1987. The man's seen me through a business recession, Diane's cancer scare, and the absolute disaster that was my attempt at growing a mustache in 2010. If anyone will, tell me the truth without sugarcoating it. It's Glenn. He picked up on the first ring. "Roger, what's up?" "Diane's in the hospital," I said. "Mercy General." I just got home, and Carl and Brenda were sitting in my living room like they already knew how the movie ended. Dead silence. Then, "What do you mean, like they already knew?" "Glenn, my son didn't react when I walked through that door. I was supposed to be in meetings all day. A normal person would have been surprised, asked questions. Carl just sat there like he'd been waiting for me." Another pause, then very quietly, "Roger, I need you to stay calm." "I am calm." "No, you're driving. That's not the same thing. He wasn't wrong. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles ached. Let me tell you something about denial. Denial is comfortable. Denial will make you coffee, sit across from you, and tell you everything's fine, that you're overreacting, that the people you love would never do the things your gut is screaming about. I'd been living in denial for months, maybe longer, but sitting in that hospital parking lot at 10 p.m. with my wife hooked to machines 50 feet above me, I evicted denial permanently. Changed the locks and everything. I called Glenn back. "She looks terrible, Glenn. Worse than when she had cancer. The doctor said toxicity, said, it's been building, not sudden, gradual." I heard him exhale slowly. "Roger, gradual means deliberate. I know what it means." And Carl was in the house when you got there, him and Brenda. They're in the waiting room right now, looking like 2 people who just got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. Silence. Then Glenn said something I'll never forget. "Brother, you need to think about who had access to Diane's food, her drinks, her medication every day over the last few months." And that's when it hit me like a freight train. 4 months ago, Diane had sprained her ankle coming down our front stairs. Nothing serious, just a bad twist, but Carl had immediately, and I mean within hours, suggested that Brenda, who worked part-time at the medical clinic, could come by every morning to help Diane with breakfast and her vitamins while I was at work. At the time, I thought it was generous. I actually told Glenn, maybe that boy's finally growing up, taking responsibility. I want to go back and slap myself. But here's what really gets me. I should have seen the signs. Diane had been getting tired easier, losing weight. Sometimes I'd come home and she'd be napping on the couch at 4 in the afternoon, which wasn't like her at all. When I asked about it, she'd say Brenda had been making her special health smoothies to help with the ankle recovery, and they made her sleepy. Health smoothies. Jesus. I went back inside the hospital. Carl was standing by the vending machines, arms crossed, wearing the expression of a man trying very hard to look innocent and failing at a graduate level. Brenda was seated with her phone face down, on her lap. Now, Brenda is never without her phone. That woman checked social media during Grace at Thanksgiving dinner. A face-down phone meant she was expecting a call she didn't want me to see, or she'd already received one. I sat down directly across from them. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Somewhere down the hall, a TV was playing the late news. Carl said, "Dad, I know how this looks, but do you, Carl? Walk me through exactly how you think this looks." He shifted in his seat, and for just a second, I saw the 8-year-old boy who used to help me carry tools to the truck. Then that moment passed. Mom's been having health issues for a while. We were trying to help. Brenda's been coming by every morning, making sure she ate breakfast, took her vitamins. Her vitamins? I repeated. Which vitamins? What? She takes 3 different supplements, calcium, vitamin D, and that joint support one for her knees. Which ones was Brenda giving her? He looked at Brenda. Brenda looked at her. Lap. That 3-second exchange told me everything I needed to know about who was really running this show. I stood up. "I need both of you to go home. Dad." I said his name once, quietly. The way my own father used to say mine when I was about to cross a line I couldn't uncross. "Carl, go home." After they left, I spent that night in the waiting room with terrible hospital coffee and a mind that wouldn't shut up. I did what any reasonable man who suspects his son of poisoning his wife would do. I started digging. I pulled up our bank statements from the last 6 months on my phone. I'm no accountant, but 30 years of running a business teaches you to spot patterns. There were withdrawals from our joint account. Small ones at first. $200 here, $350 there. The kind of amounts that whisper instead of scream. But when I added them up on the calculator app, we were looking at $11,000 over 5 months. $11,000 from our household emergency account. The account Carl had access to. The account I'd given him access to because I trusted him. I called Glenn at 2 a.m. He answered like it was noon, which is why the man's been my best friend for 35 years. $11,000, I said without saying hello. From which account? The household emergency account. Small withdrawals, consistent, spread out. Like someone who knew exactly how to steal without triggering any alerts. Glenn was quiet for a moment. Then, "Roger, that's not impulsive spending. That's not even desperation money. That's planned. That's someone who sat down and figured out how to take what they wanted without getting caught." "My son," I said. Those 2 words nearly broke me right there in that waiting room at 2 a.m. "My son sat down and planned this." "We don't know that for certain yet," Glenn said carefully. "Glenn, I know," he said quietly. "I know you know." The next morning, Dr. Wells found me exactly where she'd left me, slumped in that plastic waiting room chair with an empty coffee cup and a head full of questions I didn't want answers to. She sat down beside me, which doctors don't usually do, and I noticed that immediately. "Mr. Bradley," the full panel came back. "Tell me straight, Doc. No medical jargon." She nodded. "Your wife has elevated levels of compounds consistent with long-term ingestion of heavy metals, specifically a pattern we see with gradual poisoning. The levels suggest consistent exposure over several months. Her kidneys are under significant stress, but we caught this in time. With proper treatment, she has an excellent chance of full recovery." I closed my eyes and felt something heavy settle in my chest. "Dr. Wells, if someone were doing this deliberately, how would they do it?" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "It could be introduced through food, drink, or supplements, particularly powder-based supplements that dissolve easily and have minimal taste. Small amounts over time to avoid immediate detection." Carl's voice echoed in my head like a broken record. "Brenda's been making sure she took her vitamins. Doctor, I need to ask you something, and I need a straight answer. How long does someone have to do this before it becomes—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "Fatal," she said quietly. "With the levels we found, we're looking at maybe another 2 to 3 weeks before irreversible organ damage. Your wife was very close, Mr. Bradley. 2 to 3 weeks." My hands started shaking, and I had to set down my coffee cup. I called my lawyer first thing. Margaret Holloway had been practicing criminal law for 25 years and had the energy of someone who genuinely enjoyed watching people face consequences for their actions. I told her everything, the withdrawals, the supplements, the timing, all of it. She was quiet for exactly 5 seconds. Then she said, "Roger, don't touch anything in that house. Don't confront either of them. Don't post anything on social media. Don't hint at anything to anyone except me and the police. Can you handle this? I'm going to make sure that when this lands, it lands completely. No cracks, no exits, no plea bargains that let them walk away. Then I called Glenn. I need you to check something for me. Find out if Diane changed any legal documents recently. Will, insurance, anything with Carl's name on it. What kind of time frame are we talking about? Last 2 or 3 months. Glenn called back at 7 a.m. the next morning. He didn't say hello, just, Roger, you need to sit down. I'm already sitting. 6 weeks before Diane ended up in that ICU, she visited an estate attorney, alone. She updated your life insurance policy. My stomach dropped. What kind of update? The original policy had Carl as secondary beneficiary. Standard stuff you probably set up years ago when he was young. Diane went in and removed Carl entirely. Redirected everything to some literacy foundation she'd been building in secret. She wanted to surprise you with a fully functioning charity before she told you about it. That was Diane, always planning surprises, always thinking 5 steps ahead. How much, Glenn? The policy's worth $1.8 million, Roger. Same amount you're getting for selling the business. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Carl had found out somehow that his mother was about to cut him out of nearly $2 million. And instead of having an adult conversation, instead of asking questions or expressing concerns, he and Brenda had decided the most reasonable response was to make sure Diane didn't live long enough to finalize the paperwork. Glenn, what's the processing time on something like that? The attorney said 30 days from signing. Diane had 18 days left when she collapsed. 18 days. My wife had 18 days left to live in their timeline. I sat with that information for a long time, staring at the hospital parking lot through the waiting room window. Cars coming and going, people visiting loved ones, people getting good news, people getting bad news. Normal life continuing while mine had just turned completely upside down. Then I stood up, straightened my shoulders, and made a decision. I wasn't going to be loud about this. I wasn't going to confront Carl in a hospital hallway and give him a chance to destroy evidence or lawyer up on my dime. I was going to be methodical. I was going to be smart. I was going to make sure he felt every single consequence of what he'd done to his mother. The next 72 hours were the longest of my life, but also the most focused I'd ever been. Diane was improving daily. The chelation therapy was working, pulling the heavy metals out of her system. Her color was coming back. She was sitting up, complaining about the food, making jokes with the nurses. That was my Diane fighting her way back. On the second day, she opened her eyes and looked directly at me. Her voice was still raspy, but strong. Roger, you look like hell. I laughed out loud in the ICU, startling a nurse walking by. You're in intensive care and you're critiquing my appearance. Someone has to, she said. You've been wearing that same shirt for 2 days. I took her hand and held it tight. Diane, I need to tell you some things, but first I need to know, do you remember anything about the morning you got sick? Her face changed, became more serious. I remember Brenda making me one of those smoothies. I remember thinking it tasted different, more bitter than usual. Then I remember waking up here. Do you remember anything else? About Carl? About money? About insurance? She was quiet for a moment. Then, it was Carl, wasn't it? My own son. I didn't answer directly. I just squeezed her hand. She closed her eyes. I always wondered if that boy got the worst parts of me, and none of the good ones. Looks like I have my answer. On day 4, Margaret called with news that changed everything. Glenn had been busy. That man knows people everywhere, and he'd quietly obtained surveillance footage from a pharmacy 2 towns over. Carl had purchased a specific heavy metal supplement on 3 separate occasions, over 4 months, always paying cash, always alone. Except for the 3rd visit, when the exterior camera caught Brenda waiting in the car. But here's the kicker. The supplement wasn't even a real health product. It was sold as a cleansing agent for old pipes and contained exactly the compounds Dr. Wells had found in Diane's blood work. Carl had been literally poisoning his mother with industrial cleaning solution disguised as vitamins. Margaret also had the bank records showing the exact pattern of withdrawals that corresponded with gambling debts. Because that's what this was really about. Glenn had dug deeper and found that Carl owed $35,000 to some very unfriendly people, the kind who don't send polite reminder letters. And then there was the phone evidence. Carl, in what I can only describe as breathtaking stupidity, had actually called the estate attorney's office 3 times over the past month, posing as Diane's personal assistant to ask about the status of the insurance policy. Changes, each time from his own cell phone, each call recorded in their system. When Margaret told me this, I stared at the hospital ceiling for a full 10 seconds and said, "Did I raise a criminal mastermind or a complete moron?" "Both," she said, which is exactly what's going to put him away. They came to the hospital on day 5, carrying flowers and wearing the expressions of 2 people who decided that a charm offensive was their last remaining strategy. Carl walked in first, deployed that boyish smile that used to work on his teachers, and said, "Dad, how's Mom doing? We've been so worried." I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in maybe 10 years, I saw my son clearly. The slight tremor in his hands that meant he was either scared or coming down from something. The way his eyes kept darting to the door like he was planning an escape route. The practiced concern that didn't quite reach his face. "She's awake," I said. "She's talking and she's going to make a full recovery." I watched something flicker behind his eyes. Not relief, not joy. A very quick recalculation of odds and options. Brenda said, "Oh, that's such wonderful news, Mr. Bradley." "The police are on their way," I said, flat, calm. The same tone I might use to mention it was going to rain tomorrow. Carl's face went through about 6 expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, realization, panic, anger, then a desperate attempt to return to the fake calm. "What?" "Dad, why would—" "Margaret filed everything this morning," I continued. "The pharmacy surveillance, the bank records, your phone calls to the estate attorney, Dr. Wells's medical report documenting the poisoning, all of it, every piece in a very neat package." Brenda made a sound like air being let out of a tire. Carl said, "Dad, just listen for 1 second, okay? Just let me explain." I stood up. "Carl, there is not a sentence in the English language that explains poisoning your own mother for insurance money, not one. So, I need you to stop talking." He opened his mouth anyway. "You don't understand the pressure I was under. The people I owe money to, they were going to— So you decided to kill my wife." My voice carried down that hospital corridor. A few nurses looked our way. "That was your solution to your gambling debts." "It wasn't supposed to go that far," Brenda whispered. "We were just going to make her sick enough to need care, and then—" "And then what?" "Hope she died conveniently. Hope the insurance paid out quickly." I looked at both of them. "You spent 4 months slowly poisoning a woman who treated you like family." Carl tried one more time. "Dad, I'm your son." "No," I said. "My son wouldn't do this. My son would have called me if he was in trouble. My son would have asked for help. You're just someone who shares my DNA and decided that made you entitled to murder my wife." They were arrested in the hospital parking lot 10 minutes later. Margaret had timed it perfectly. Carl would be charged with attempted murder, and insurance fraud, Brenda with conspiracy and being an accessory. I watched from the window as they put Carl in the back of the police car. He was still trying to talk his way out of it, gesturing frantically at the officers like this was all some big misunderstanding. Glenn appeared beside me at the window. I don't know when he arrived, but he was there when I needed him, like he always is. "How do you feel?" he asked. I thought about it honestly. Like, I've been carrying around a 50-pound weight for months, and someone just cut it loose. Like, I'm the saddest I've ever been, and the most relieved at the same time. And Diane? I looked back toward her room. Through the small window, I could see her sitting up in bed, reading a magazine one of the nurses had brought her. Diane's going to be fine. She was always going to be fine. She's the toughest person I know. 3 months later, Diane came home. She walked through our front door on a Saturday morning in June when the light was perfect, and she stood in our hallway looking around like she was seeing it for the first time. "Roger," she said, "this house feels different." "How so?" "Safer. Like something poisonous finally left." She wasn't wrong. The trial lasted 8 days. Margaret prosecuted with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been waiting her entire career for a case this clear-cut. The jury took 3 hours to convict on all charges. Carl got 25 years. Brenda got 15. When the verdicts were read, Diane squeezed my hand and whispered, "I want barbecue." So we got barbecue. Glenn came, Margaret came, Dr. Wells came. We sat around a table and ate and laughed, and I watched my wife tell stories with her hands, animated and alive, and I thought, there she is, there's my Diane. I said at the beginning that I came home early and found something worse than robbery. I take that back. I'm glad I came home when I did. I'm glad I saw what I saw and did what I did. Because if I'd been one day later, if that meeting had run long, if I'd stayed in the office like I was supposed to, Diane wouldn't be here. You can't control what people choose to become in the dark. You can only control how you respond when the lights come on. I came home, turned the lights on, and made sure everyone in my house faced exactly what they'd done. That's the job. That's always been the job. Sometimes the family you build is safer than the family you're born with. And protecting what matters means having the courage to cut away what's rotten, even when it shares your name. Trust isn't something you owe people because of blood relation. It's something earned through actions. And when someone tries to destroy the people you love, your only job is to make sure they face every consequence of that choice.